Okay, hello everyone, recording in progress. That's the sound we want to hear. In today's episode, we have Montserrat Cano, an international SEO consultant, and we are going to discuss how to develop project manager skills that we all want badly. And I'm very pleased to have Montse to discuss this topic. Welcome, Montse, and thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me, Adriana. I'm pleased to be here.
All right, so Montse, we want so badly to have these project management skills because as a head of SEOs, as a director of SEOs, SEO managers, we really need to have these skills to be able to manage different teams, different stakeholders, different clients. So where we should start with developing these skills and how to proceed?
Well, first of all, I would like to point out that you can be a project manager even if you're not a head of SEO, for example, or a director. In fact, when I was in the UK for the last 10, 15 years before I actually moved back home, I could see so many job descriptions pointing out the need to have project management skills. Unfortunately, in most occasions, what they actually meant is that somebody who could be organized rather than somebody who could actually manage projects. But that has been changing over time because the project management culture and more skills related to that have been evolving over time. So it's good news. It's good news because everything is so complicated. As head of SEO or as SEOs, we need to be able to manage different legs of different projects and different stakeholders, and sometimes it can be quite daunting. So having these project management skills and knowing what a project really is does actually help. So you don't have to be, like I said, a senior person to develop this skill set. In fact, what actually happens is that any professional can develop their career and advance thanks to just not knowing about SEO or broad digital, but also having other set of skill set that will enable them to, to get the buy-in, to manage other people, etc., etc. And one of them is project management. So if you want to start with that, there's plenty of information on the internet. I would go directly to the Project Management Institute and similar associations to find out more about what project really is, what they do for project managers, whether it is actually good for you. The answer I anticipate is yes, and but if you need that extra reassurance, so to speak, then the Project Management Institute and similar organizations across the world are the go-to places. And then read about different methodologies, different adoption of those methodologies as well, and why that happens. Because, for example, we know that predictive methodology or waterfall, as we tend to call it normally, is one of the most useful or most used methodologies around the world, despite the fact that lean methodologies or hybrid methodologies have been rising over the past maybe 10, 15 years. But that happens because it really depends on your type of project, on your the scope of your project, on the type of business that you are working with or at. For example, I can tell you that in SEO, not everything will be lean. A good example is a migration, a website migration. Any type of migration will probably have a waterfall or a predictive methodology to be used in there, because it just needs to happen. That migration needs to happen in an exact way. There's no need for any ideas or opinions on that. It needs to happen like it has to happen, whereas other projects can actually be a bit more lean, a bit more hybrid, perhaps, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So read about all those methodologies. Read about the skill sets that you need to develop. Most of us will already have those skill sets. It's just a matter of developing as well, and we tend to develop them as we advance in our professions, as we change jobs and change working environments, for example. So think about those. Also think about the different type of cultures, because not in every single organization they will favor this type of working environment. Yeah. So there's places like Apple, for example, who are very famous for their project management methodologies and culture, but in other cultures, maybe project managers are not as favored, or project management in general. So you need to find out about different companies and how they manage those projects, etc., etc.
Yeah. And I really love that you mentioned that actually we have these skill set in our body and like heads already. We just need to kind of like a little bit like sharp it and like
Yeah.
make a small development. But like that's the biggest challenge that SEOs think like, I don't have these skills. No, you already have it. There is just like a new way how to make it like more impactful, because we are all organized, and like project managers, like the additional thing here is like a lot of people are thinking that like they are not organized, but they are just like missing some small like parts, gaps, and like once we fill out that gap, you can be organized very well. Additional things that are blocking you to be organized is some sabotaging thoughts, procrastination, but behind all these gaps are some thoughts that we develop over the time that are sabotaging us to be organized, to have some specific skill set. But like we have that, we just need to find the gap and like why the gap is there. Once we solve the thought that is sabotaging us, we are able to move further. Organizational skills, leadership skills, also a lot of a skill that we really need in project manager is the thing that you mentioned in migrations, in connecting different stakeholders, how to get what we want in the time when we really need. So can you share some examples, or like how SEOs can develop that skill to actually get what we want in the time we really need?
Well, this would be within the context of a specific project, something that happens right now and finishes, say, in 3 months' time, because that is a project, right? A project is, say, as the PMI says, is a specific temporary endeavor which we use to produce something of value to other people. So within this context, what we need to understand is that there will be blockers, and those blockers are normally to do more with the fact that they may not know what you are doing. They may not know what you are doing. They may not know how, more importantly, how it impacts their own daily work. And it will be impacting you, because as an SEO, you might not even have somebody underneath you to help out with the project. And there might be more like a matrix. You might be working more in a matrix environment where you may have assigned different people to work on specific projects, but you are not managing them. And so the stakeholders, certain stakeholders will be, they are managers, they are heads of department, who are suddenly having some of their resources being allocated to somebody else. So you need to make sure that everybody knows what you are up to. And sometimes what happens is that you will need to repeat it about 50 times before somebody actually gets wind of what you are doing or what you are saying. And this is because you are not their biggest priority. You definitely are not their biggest priority. So first thing to say is that like all managerial positions, this is a very lonely position to be in. You really have to be very strong, very firm. I'm not saying rude nor anything, just very firm. And you need to make sure that everybody understands what you are doing. There's different ways to do that. And I have liked to use graphics. I have liked to use lightning talks, for example, or regular meetings. It really depends on the workflow that everybody can agree on, depending on the circumstances, depending on the type of company, depending on the type of organization, depending on other variables that perhaps they are not under your own control. It's important that this is understood from the very beginning.
Yeah, I'm taking some notes because I don't want to interrupt you. And I really love that you mentioned like understanding like why specific task can't be done in specific moment, because with understanding of also their tasks or priority, we can see the challenge that they are facing. And then if we are like project manager, probably we are like more senior people in that team, maybe we can help them to firstly prioritize some tasks regarding the impact they have on our project, and also discover any additional challenge that they are facing. Because if we are not finding the gap why the team member can't do something in the specific time we really need, that is actually something that we can help to understand and then solve the kind of like problem for them, so they can move the needle further. And also we are helping our project, we are helping our company, we are helping our clients, we are helping ourselves, and everybody is making that progress.
Yeah, well, in fact, at the very beginning, we identify that business need that we need to meet. And that is incredibly important, because without that, we can't really devise any strategies. We cannot know what to do to build. So, for example, a migration might be a tactic to follow to meet that business need for whichever reason. It can be any, but that has to happen at the very beginning, and it needs to have everybody agreeing on that, because otherwise, I can assure you that further down the line, things can actually get a lot tougher. So
Yeah.
it's best to think about the business need at the very beginning, and then think about what you need to do to meet it, and everything else just follows suit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that means also thinking about risks, what kind of risks we will encounter if we actually start doing this project,
Mm-hmm.
this process, how we are going to overcome those hurdles. That is very important, and that is very important that we communicate it to the team as well. So transparency is absolutely key. Then with team management, that's what you meant about prioritizing. That's something else, because you need to definitely manage that team too. So from the start, they need to be very clear as to what they are doing. So if your business, your project is, say, a digital transformation project in the marketing realm, where you have a website specialist, a CRM specialist, and a social media specialist, they need to understand that they are not going to do anything else apart from that, and what kind of things they can actually bring in. You can ask for their opinion. Perhaps they know a bit more about than you about the issues that the website is facing. Perhaps a migration is needed. Perhaps it's not. Perhaps it's just a rebranding. Perhaps it's something else. You just need to have their input, but then at the same time you have to make sure that they stick to it, because there are so many things that we can do. And this is something that I tend to tell my students at university. There are so many things that you can actually do to increase traffic, to increase visibility, to increase your reputation online. However, your resources are very limited, and your time, including your time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and yeah, and in fact, I would say that for every single project, we need to think about the scope of
Mm-hmm.
the project, the time, and the resources. And that is absolutely important. And it also has a reflection on marketing strategies, because we need to still think about the same things whenever we make any strategy, whenever we craft any strategy for marketing, for SEO,
All
etc.
right, yeah. And like what I'm seeing regarding the project issues, the biggest one is always a deadline. In the most of cases, a deadline. So if we can address how to how to be able to handle that issue, and also if we can call out additional very common issues that we are seeing as a big challenge during these projects.
It can be a real challenge. It's not just about the deadline, it's also about the budget. And in fact, there's, I think, I've read recently, it's only 34% of projects, particularly within technology, actually ends within budget, and about the same time, about the same percentage within time. And that is a reflection. That can be a reflection of many things. You have to take a case, all these things case by case, right? So you can't generalize. In my experience, it's normally because the project management culture is not really there. There's
Mm-hmm.
difficulty in getting budget for SEO as well. There's difficulty in getting the buy-in, and that includes budget. And so sometimes what I have found is that transparency is key, and you know, managing expectations from the start is helping. It can help the actual consecution of that, of those deliveries, those projects. So if you from the start you say, well, we think this is the actual amount of money that we are going to get. This is the actual timing that we are going to be using to deliver this project. But there is a need, there might be a need to actually deliver it in a bit a longer time due to X, Y, Z. Because there's always variables that we can't really manage. There's something beyond our own control. We cannot know, even as a specialist, no one knows what can happen or cannot happen, how it is going to affect what we are doing, particularly
Mm-hmm.
in those organizations where project manager is not actually managing anyone underneath, but they're having additional resource from different departments. Then what happens is that those departments might actually need that particular resource to be hands on deck on their own day-to-day work, not on your project. And that has a direct impact on your own project as
Mm-hmm.
well.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that is something that needs to be discussed at the very beginning. And then it can help. Obviously, we cannot know what will happen at the end. We don't have a crystal ball, but what it is really clear is that by agreeing from the start what we need to do, what we are going to be doing, the timing, the scope of the project, and everything else, there are a lot more possibilities to meet that business need than whether there isn't that project.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that may sound very red tape, very how can I say, very a lot of extra work because of all of the documentation that you need to produce as well, which is going to help you backing up with your ideas, and in case somebody keeps asking what you are doing and why you are doing it as well. But the problem is that people don't really want to do any administration, and that is understandable. That may sound like lots of extra admin, but it is not. It really is not. It really is just documentation that we need to. It's just it's a way to work, and we need as CEOs to be able to understand how to work like that too.
Mm-hmm.
So that people understand what we are doing, particularly now with SGE or AI overviews, as they are now calling it, why we are doing what we are doing, and we need to document all that data, etc., etc. It's the same with projects, with other type of projects too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And like we are talking about all these challenges, problems, and we haven't mentioned like stress. So basically, during every day, every single minute of this project, like we are facing a huge amount of stress. So what would be your approach in handling like the stress, and like how we can actually decrease that stress even we are having all these challenges in front of us?
As a project manager, you are the person who shields your team so that they can actually do the work without being stressed out. And
Mm-hmm.
the possibilities that the project manager is stressed are actually quite high, because we need to deliver within time and budget, to time and budget. Yeah, we need to do that. And so that produces stress naturally. Um, but I think the actual nature of projects will definitely help um, all of us to be less stressed, because we know what we are achieving. We know what we need to achieve anyway, and how we need to get there. And we have all that documentation. So it shouldn't be that complicated for us to get there. It's just maybe time consuming, but that's about that. Um, yeah, I think the nature of the project will actually help us release part of that frustration, that stress, etc., etc. Like I said, any company, any organization, any business organization will have a lot more possibilities to meet a business need and to deliver a project if the project is actually taking the form of a real project with all the layers that come into it. So we've got a first um, um, step of which is called conception, where we actually
Mm-hmm.
identify that need, and then we've got the planning stage, then we've got the execution stage, then we've got the project closure. And if we follow all these steps, all these stages rather, then the stress will be less. But yeah, how can we lower down this stress? Perhaps making sure that we've got all of the tools available for us to be less stressed. But maybe we can use things like graphics to help other people understand what we are doing and the progress of the project without having to hold many meetings, perhaps. Agreeing with people from the start what we are doing and why we need to do it, and the resource that we need to have, etc., etc. And basically taking things easy as much as possible. There
Mm-hmm.
is a whole planning stage for that as well. Um, Knowing the kind of organization that you are working with and your niche as well, your industry niche, does help with preventing any headaches. Things like, for example, I mean, if we don't know that we are working in an e-commerce organization that I don't know where there might be I mean, I'm making this up, right, really, but
Mm-hmm.
we need to understand where we are, what kind of organization we're working with, the type of people we're working with as well, um, so that we can lower that stress.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very important not to lose sight of the main objectives.
Mm-hmm.
Really is very important, because if we start losing sight of the main, if we sidestep, if we get distracted and we start doing other things that were not planned, perhaps simply because they are cool, because we have just heard about them, um,
Yeah.
well, then maybe that can actually um, make us feel a lot more stressed, because then we would have another thing to report on, which is a lot less important than other things that we are doing.
Yeah.
So just to summarize, it's difficult not to feel stress. There's two types of stress. The stress which is good, which is natural, which can help you being alert. And the second one is the bad stress, yeah, the more negative one, which is which comes with added on pressures from other departments or from your team. So this is the one that we need to watch out and accept that
Mm-hmm.
it can happen. It
Yeah.
definitely can happen.
You know what I'm seeing like across all these like project management skills, you have plan, you have everything like next steps, like focus, like where should your task will be in like which order. And then like what is making a huge stress beyond that is are we are responsible for our team, we need to finish this, we need to finish that like in the specific deadline, and like taking a lot of external factors as our like kind of like taking it personally, but just like making that it's not about us, it's about the project, it's about project needs, clients, and like how we are handling this objectively, not taking that like on that pressure on us is because all these like thoughts that we having beyond the plan, beyond the all these actual tasks that we have to focus on, our thoughts are something that uh, becoming more and more overwhelming, and then brings more stress than the actual task that we need to do. So just like splitting out like what's the real task and what is the overwhelming thought that we created during the process is something that will reduce your stress significantly, because in a lot of times like we made a lot of situations that are not happening, like what other people will think about us, what our leaders will think about us if we are
Yeah.
not delivering project in time, and like this is something that makes us so stressful in comparison to just like doing the task, organizing meetings, following the plan, putting the all these like puzzles into place. And then once we refocus that like from these thoughts to the actual task, our stress is significantly lower, and then we are getting a new challenge, we are being aware like why all these are triggering us, and then again making that not personal and focusing on the project need is something that help us a lot.
Yeah, definitely. And motivation can help us doing
Mm-hmm.
all that as well. It is, as a project manager, it is your responsibility to keep people motivated so that they can actually move towards this in the same direction and towards the same objective. And sometimes it's complicated, because what you have to accept is that everybody has their own life and their own
Mm-hmm.
life pressures outside of work and everything. But within work, within the realm of your projects, you need to keep them and keep yourself motivated. And that is, I think, the most important task. It's about motivating yourself, your team, and also stakeholders. What we call stakeholder management, after all, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
To um, so that they can still see the need for that to happen, so that the work that they are doing, that we are all doing, is interesting and is going to affect in a positive way their careers, their lives. Etc., etc. And in fact, I do believe that having project management skills will definitely help us all to move on towards our own objectives in our own careers,
Mm-hmm.
change jobs if we need to, etc., etc. Because these are transferable skills. They
Yeah.
definitely are. They are specific to projects. I mean, there are projects where you definitely need to be an engineer. It's as simple as that. But for managerial position, you don't really need to normally you don't really need to be a specialist in whatever it is that you are doing, because this is the reason why you've got a team of specialists. But obviously, things like SEO, it does help definitely if you
Mm-hmm.
know and appreciate what SEO is and fully understand what it does. And and how it can drive business.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think motivation is the most difficult thing to achieve. So outside being transparent and letting people know what they have to do, being very, very clear as to what they have to achieve and why, celebrating successes, which is not something that normally happens, at
Mm-hmm.
least not when I was an employee, which didn't happen such a long time ago. It is important, saying something like, well done, uh, it, it, good job. You don't need to make a party to celebrate successes. You don't need to go out for lunch. But what if you just go out for lunch once in a while with your team to celebrate, to talk perhaps about something else which is not work,
Mm-hmm.
for
Oh, yeah,
example?
that helps a lot. Yeah, for bonding. And I really love that you made a perfect, I would say, like conclusion for end, because definitely developing project management skills will help you to grow in your career, to hit new projects, new responsibilities, new career goals. So developing just like project management skills on the project basis will hit your career very significantly. So that's the purpose, like why we are doing all this, like progressing in our life, career, like, and it's not that just about career, it's about like our life, how we are managing our life on our own. So Monse, thank you so much for today. I love this episode, and definitely SEOs can benefit from it.
No, thank you so much for having me. I really love talking about project management because as SEOs and pro digital strategists, we need to be able to find a way to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that all our requirements and recommendations are being implemented so that we can actually test whether we are actually going in the right direction or not. And this is a very good way to do it, just developing those project management skills. So I love that you have invited me to talk about it. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I agree. Thank you so much, and have a great day.
Bye.